Chapter 23, Part 2 of J.S. Bach, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. J.S. Bach, Volume 2 by Albert Schweitzer, translated by Ernest Neumann. The musical language of the cantatas, continued. The step motifs. Bach never lets slip words that express running or walking. In the opening arioso of the cantata, Sehet, wir gehen hinauf nach Jerusalem, number 159, he seems to paint Jesus going before the disciples, then turning round to them and standing still to repeat once more the sorrowful words that they cannot comprehend. In the cantata, Es ist euch gut, dass ich hingehe, number 108, in the verse, quote, Es ist euch gut, dass ich hingehe, denn so ich nicht hingehe, so kommt der Tröster nicht zu euch. It is expedient for you that I go away, for if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. End quote. Bach gives to the basses the walking motif, while the noble arabesque of the oboe above it expresses sublime consolation. In the cantata Wo gehst du hin? Where goest thou? number 166, the walking motif is again used to illustrate the text. Another characteristic example is the theme of the fugal prelude to the cantata, Tritt auf die Glaubensbahn, Tread on the Path of Faith, number 152. In the recitative Geh Welt, halte nur das Deine, Go world, keep thou thine own alone, from the cantata Seht welch eine Liebe, number 64. Bach represents the words Geh Welt by the same bass figure that he uses in the St. Matthew Passion to depict the setting out of Jesus and the disciples towards Gethsemane. In the cantata Ach Herr, mich armen Sünder, number 135, the music that accompanies the word Weicht all ihr Übeltäter, weicht, away all ye evil doers, suggests a hurrying away in terror. The act of hastening away is charmingly suggested again in the bass of the aria, Wir eilen mit schwachen, doch emsigen Schritten, we hasten with weak yet diligent steps, in the cantata Jesu der du meine Seele, number 78. In the cantata Erfreute Zeit im neuen Bunde, number 83, the words Eile, Herz voll Freudigkeit, hasten heart full of joyfulness, is expressed by a similar movement. Bach has marked all these quaver passages that represent movement, staccato, of course a heavy staccato. He symbolizes someone hurrying after or by the side of another by imitative passages for the voices, often almost in canon. Footnote. The following examples may be cited among many: the duet with chorus, Kommt, eilet und laufet, from the Easter Oratorio, the arias Ich folge dir gleichfalls, and Eilt ihr angefochtenen Seelen, from the St. John Passion, the aria Entziehe dich eilends, mein Herz der Welt, from the cantata Meinen Jesum lass ich nicht, number 124, and the aria So schnell ein rauschend Wasser schießet, so eilen unseres Lebenstage, from the cantata Ach wie nichtig, number 26. End footnote. The wide range of symbolism that he makes the step motif cover cannot be correctly estimated from the chorale preludes. Measured, tranquil steps indicate resolution and confident faith, as for example in the bass accompaniment to the Credo in the B minor Mass. There is the same tranquil motion in the bass as in the Confiteor. When the intervals are more widely spread, they symbolize strength, pride, and defiance. Typical examples are the themes of the chorus, quote, Herr, wenn die stolzen Feinde toben, Lord, when the proud enemy rages, end quote, in the Christmas oratorio. This pictorial idea is carried to still further lengths in the themes of the cantata Nun ist das Heil und die Kraft, number 50. From the same root is derived the fecit potentiam of the Magnificat. And the theme of the basses in the Deposuit potentes, especially the end of it. This represents the word potentes, the mighty, while the violins render the idea of deposuit, he hath cast down. In the aria, quote, Gewaltiger stößt Gott vom Stuhl hinunter, God has cast down the mighty from his seat, unquote. In the cantata Meine Seel erhebt den Herrn, number 10, the German Magnificat, the two motifs are united in one theme. These motifs illuminate for us the gigantic idea that Bach wished to express in the theme of the organ fugue in E minor. The tumult motif. Bach employs a particular group among these stamping motifs wherever he has to represent the tumult of combat, as if he desired to suggest to the hearer the hoofbeats of the horses and the rumbling of the marching columns. The typical example of these motifs is to be seen in the cantata Ein feste Burg, number 80, where Bach forms from it the music that accompanies the second verse. Quote, Mit unserer Macht ist nichts getan. Es streit für uns der rechte Mann. With our own might we can do nothing. There fights for us the right one. Unquote. The tumult motif appears in a slightly different form in the aria Streite, siege, starker Held, strive and conquer, hardy hero, in the cantata Nun komm der Heiden Heiland, number 62, second composition. In still another form it accompanies in the cantata Gott der Herr ist Sonn und Schild, number 79, the supplication of the believer, quote, Gott, ach Gott, verlass die Deinen nimmer mehr, obgleich sehr wider uns die Feinde toben. God, O God, forsake not thine own, though the enemy rage against us. End quote. The tumult motif appears again in the final aria of the cantata Wachet, Betet, number 70. Where it represents the uproar at the end of all things. In the concluding aria of the cantata for Low Sunday, Halt im Gedächtnis, number 67, Bach employs it for the great tone picture in which he portrays the appearance of Jesus to the 11 disciples. The music paints the turmoil made by the world round these terrified men. At the sight of Jesus they sing, quote, Wohl uns, Jesus hilft uns kämpfen. O joy, Jesus helps us in the fight. Unquote. And as soon as the Saviour utters his Friede sei mit euch, peace be unto you, the tumult motif is silenced. In the aria Gute Nacht, du Weltgetümmel, good night, O tumult of the world. In the cantata Wer weiß, wie nahe mir mein Ende, number 27, there is another motif of the same kind. The clear-cut quality of Bach's musical language may be seen from the fact that in the St. John Passion the words of Jesus, quote, Wäre mein Reich von dieser Welt, meine Diener würden darum kämpfen, dass ich den Juden nicht überantwortet würde. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews, end quote, are accompanied by a figure derived from the tumult motif. The motifs of exhaustion. Bach expresses exhaustion and weakness by means of syncopated step motifs. A weary, dragging walk is depicted in the cantata Ich steh mit einem Fuß im Grabe, number 156, where Bach lays the earthly pilgrim in the grave at the end of his pilgrimage in this fashion. In the cantata Mit Fried und Freud ich fahr dahin, number 125, the weary motion is represented more as a kind of falling forward. The first part of the opening chorus of the cantata, Brich dem Hungrigen dein Brot, number 39, is dominated by a similar representation of a man wearily dragging himself along, for Bach, fastening on the words, quote, Und die so im Elend sind, führe ins Haus, and those who are in misery, take them into thy house, end quote, paints a procession of tottering figures being conducted under the sheltering roof. In the cantata In allen meinen Taten, number 97, occurs this passage, quote, Leg ich mich später nieder, erwach früh ich wieder, lieg oder ziehe fort in Schwachheit und in Banden. If I go to rest late, awake early, lie down or go forth in weakness and in bonds. End quote. The theme with which Bach expresses the lying down and rising again is almost too characteristic. Jaded and uncertain steps also represent vacillating faith. Elaborate pictures of this kind are found in the cantata Ich glaube, lieber Herr, hilf meinem Unglauben, number 109. The theme of the aria, quote, Wie zweifelhaftig ist mein Hoffen, how uncertain is my hope, end quote, may be especially mentioned. Footnote. See also the aria. Bald zur Rechten, bald zur Linken lenkt sich mein verehrter Schritt. My wandering steps go now to the right, now to the left, from the cantata Herr Christ, der einzige Gottessohn, number 96. And the aria, Wir zittern und wanken, we tremble and reel, from the cantata Herr, geh nicht ins Gericht, number 105. End of footnote. Syncopated step motifs in an idealized form express the weariness that has found rest in Christ. Of this order are the themes of the beautiful sacred lullabies in which Bach describes the blissful weariness of death. Thus in the first chorus of the cantata, Christus, der ist mein Leben, Sterben ist mein Gewinn, number 95, the orchestra works out the motif. A well-known example is the noble theme of the aria Schlummert ein, ihr matten Augen, close in sleep, you weary eyes, from the cantata Ich habe genug, number 82. The rhythm. The rhythm is mostly associated by musical people with the idea of dignity or solemnity. It is used in the grave section of the old French overture with the same signification as in the Graal scene in Parsifal. The E-flat prelude for organ at the beginning of the collection of the Greater Catechism chorales, illustrating the Lutheran doctrine, is worked out in this rhythm, as it needs to be unusually majestic. Bach employs it again in the Easter cantata Christ lag in Todesbanden, number 4, to express the 6th verse, quote, So feiern wir das hohe Fest, so celebrate the high feast, end quote. In the cantata for Palm Sunday, Himmelskönig, sei willkommen, number 182, it is prompted by the word Himmelskönig, King of Heaven. Grave violino concertante. The same rhythm occurs in several arias in which mention is made of the godhood of Jesus. In the Christmas cantata, Gelobet seist du, Jesus Christ, number 91, it elucidates the text, Die Armut so Gott auf sich nimmt, God takes poverty upon himself. It is found again in the first chorus of the cantata, Herr Jesu Christ war Mensch und Gott, number 127, even the phrase Fürst des Lebens, Prince of Life, in an aria in the cantata Der Himmel lacht, die Erde jubiliert, number 31. It's enough to make Bach feel justified in introducing the rhythm of majesty. This solemn rhythm must not be confused with another that resembles it externally in that it also divides each bar beat into two notes, one of which has the value of 3/4, the other of 1/4 only. This latter is mainly distinguished from the other motif by the fact that it almost invariably appears in animated triple time, while the rhythm of solemnity is used in slow 4/4 time. Moreover, it generally begins on the upbeat, and is interspersed with notes of other values or with pauses, while the rhythm of solemnity begins with the downbeat and continues without interruption. This other rhythm, which may be represented by a formula of this kind, expresses violent passions, sometimes of a joyful but generally of a grievous kind. Bach especially employs it to represent terror, horror, and despair. Its typical form may be seen in Peter's aria of remorse, Ach mein Sinn, in the St. John Passion. Another example occurs in the opening duet of the cantata, Ach Gott, wie manches Herzeleid. O God, what grief of heart, number 58. Bach also expresses in this way the words Mein letztes Lager will mich schrecken, my last state will dismay me, in the cantata O Ewigkeit, du Donnerwort, number 60. The rhythm is also employed whenever he wishes to suggest slow and heavy movement, as in the aria Komm, Süßes Kreuz, Come, Dear Cross, in the St. Matthew Passion, where the music accompanies the steps of Joseph of Arimathea as he carries the cross. It can also represent the falling of the scourge, as in the arioso Erbarm es Gott, Thy mercy show, O God, in the St. Matthew Passion, or the convulsive movements of the head of an angry serpent, as in the aria Geduld, wenn mich falsche Zungen stechen, patience, though false tongues should sting me. The ambiguity of this rhythm comes from the fact that there are a number of cases of the representation of movement that may be interpreted in more than one way. Still, it is never doubtful what Bach means to express in this or that case by the rhythm. By means of the meter and the build of the phrase, he can give it each time so individual a character that its bearing on the text is clear without further explanation. A common feature of all the forms of the rhythm so far cited is that the short note is not to be accented lightly, but heavily, so that it has the effect not of a final aspiration of the previous note, but of a preliminary tone and accent to the note that follows it. Written out exactly, the rhythm of solemnity and that of passion would appear thus. This opinion is not refuted by the fact that Bach, where he marks ties in these rhythms, always groups the notes belonging to the same beat under a tie, in this manner. By this he only means to indicate that the passage as a whole is to be played legato. The solution of the question does not turn upon the ties that Bach has marked, but on whether the short note is to be played heavily or lightly. If heavily, then the ear necessarily accepts it in each case as the fore accent to the succeeding note. The opening duet in Ach Gott, wie manches Herzeleid, number 58, may be cited in proof of this, in spite of the fact that Bach has marked the tempo adagio and written the ties thus. The movement is dominated by the passion rhythm. It does not make its proper effect until we play the short notes not lightly, but with a certain degree of heaviness. Observe the inward unrest that makes itself felt in this music, and in that of the aria Mein letztes Lager will mich schrecken, in O Ewigkeit, du Donnerwort, number 60. It comes from the sequence of violent intervals that Bach uses. These two arias present the problem in such an interesting form because the texts allow of both a passionate and a peaceful interpretation. Both are in dialogue form. The lament, quote, Ach Gott, wie manches Herzeleid begegnet mir zu dieser Zeit. Ah God, what a grief of heart is mine, is answered by the other voice with Geduld, Geduld, patience, patience, end quote. To the terrified cry, Mein letztes Lager will mich schrecken, the other rejoins, quote, Mich wird des Heilens Hand bedecken, the hand of the Lord will cover me, unquote. The right way of rendering the music, therefore, depends upon our knowing which of the two feelings Bach is expressing. If the passionate rhythm were not otherwise vouched for, we might conceive the music in both these arias as expressing the quiet consolation of the text. Nor must we forget the general observation that where a text gives Bach the choice between two feelings, he he very often decides for the more passionate one, without considering whether in this way he best reproduces the sense of the text as a whole. As a matter of fact, he also employs a rhythm in which the short note must be regarded as supplemental to the previous one, and is to be as lightly breathed as possible. Precisely noted, it would run thus. This rhythm belongs to the large category of those that represent light and charming movement, and express symbolical ideas like peace and happiness. Its affinity with the rhythm of solemnity and passion exists only on paper and for the eye. In performance and for the ear, it has nothing whatever in common with the other. Externally, it is distinguished from the solemnity rhythm by the fact that it is usually met with only in triple time, and from the passionate rhythm by the fact that it never begins on the upbeat. The question of the various rhythms in Bach is of the greatest practical importance. The average conductor is not clear about the matter, and so renders them all in the same way, thus negating the characterization that Bach intended them to have. The occurrence, meaning, and proper way of rendering this rhythm in Bach should be made the object of a special and searching inquiry. End of chapter 23, part 2. Read by Sandra.